Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ. Joining me back after, I don't even know, weeks away, who knows. Jack Foster's in high demand these days. You can go check him out on Cameo, doing those with his Omaha Productions and RTI Press Pass hosting duties. The man's all over the map. Jack Foster, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, it's been a busy football season. Is flying by. We're already 7 weeks through the college year.
Is it? Is it flying by, Jack? It doesn't feel like it's been flying by the last 3 weeks. I wouldn't say it's been flying by.
It is flying by for me. So the way my week works, it's like as soon as 12 hits on Saturday, like noon, and the games start, all the way until Thursday night, it is a blur. Like I am just constantly slammed the whole way through. So it's crazy. And then I have off like Thursday night and Friday. So it's like I'm just working to get through that wave. And then it's like the mini weekend of Thursday, Friday, and then it's back. And then it just keeps, so it's flying by for me, especially the college season. It's hard to believe it's over halfway through.
I don't know, man. We're in the middle part of this, and I'm tired. It's dragging. Where I'm like, I need to know who the real Tennessee Volunteers are at some point. I need to know because it's aging me every week a little bit more. Rocky Top Insiders Ryan Schumpert also here. Ryan, good evening, sir. How are you?
Doing well. No, we're in the weird part of. It's not really weird when you're in it, but it's weird when you look back on it, and it'll be something like. And it won't really matter for the Titans this year. They're so bad. But, and I feel like this is always the case. Titans and the Colts always play the same weekend that Tennessee plays Florida. And you'll look back on something like this, and you'll be like, yeah, the Tennessee-Florida game. That was smack dab in the middle of the season. And then you'll look back and be like, yeah, the first Titans-Colts game in Nashville, that was right at the very beginning of the NFL season, of just the NFL starting later, and obviously has so many more weeks in the regular season, where we're to what feels like the middle point of football season, but really when you look back on football season in February and it'll be like, yeah, what happened in that week of the NFL season? That was the very beginning of the season still.
That's true. I don't know what y'all are going through because like the Falcons are one of the best teams in the NFL, which is awesome. And it's just pretty great. It's just very, very normal. I get so getting those on Sundays has been nice. A nice reprieve from the last couple of Saturdays that we've been going through here, but maybe it'll turn around for Ryan and Jack this season. Maybe
it won't.
Is this a sell high week on Bijan Robinson, Chase?
No,
Falcons
he's getting stacked boxes. I saw a stat where it's like Tyler Algier gets all these light boxes and Bijan is getting a bunch of stack boxes. He's fine. He's fine.
Let's see, I think.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna like? What's the alternative here? He's getting used more than Arthur Smith used him.
I just think he's the 1A. Like, I just think Algier's a 1B, Bijan's a 1A.
I just don't.
And he's not ever going to get 20 carries in a game.
Who cares?
Fantasy purposes.
Save him for the postseason, man.
Jack cares about fantasy. That's why. That's
what's happening here. I'm like, what? I don't care. Save him.
High. That's a fantasy term. Like I'm saying, is this the sell high week?
I don't know. I don't play fantasy football anymore. I retired years ago.
Gotcha. Well, you would love it this year as a Falcons fan.
No, I wouldn't. Because
yes, you would.
No, because I would have drafted a Saints player. I drafted Kamara so many times because I love Alvin Kamara. No, it's terrible because then when they play the Falcons, I have to be like, oh, I hope Kamara does pretty well, but I hope the Saints don't really win. No, it's terrible for your brain. Fantasy football is terrible if you're an actual fan of a team. It's terrible
really
for your
not
brain.
that hard. You just don't cheer for the player and you hope he doesn't score. But then if he does, it's like, at least it helps.
No, I can't do it.
No, Chase, you're right. That's why I don't really have. Yes, I'm a Jags fan because I love Trevor Lawrence, but I'm not like actually a Jacksonville fan, right? So if Lawrence left the Jags tomorrow, I'd switch. So I've never been a fan of a team since Peyton retired. That's just never how it's been for me. And it's because I play in 10 fantasy leagues a year. Like I
10
at least. Like I can't just completely buy into a team because if one of my players, I'm rooting for my fantasy team before any NFL team.
What?
For the most part.
Oh my God. That is what a degenerate couple sentences there. I don't even know what to do with it.
Wild.
Absolutely
Jake,
wild stuff.
Good story and we can get into what people care about. But Jack and his roommate and I went down to Chattanooga in August to watch Christian Moore play on a Friday night. And I walk into Jack's apartment because we were meeting there out in West Knoxville and then leaving. And he's got like a full whiteboard with every fantasy, probably top 100 players in fantasy listed of where he had them slotted and which round he thought they could go, and an individual pieces of paper, I think, on the wall with his full list, probably 25, 30 deep at each position.
What?
Tiers and everything.
Yeah.
Big
I didn't know
board.
you. Are you just dying to be like the Matthew Berry, Field Yates? I didn't know that was like the long-term play for you, Jack.
I mean, it is the dream. Like, that's what got me into media, was fantasy football and podcasts. Like Fantasy Football Today from CBS Sports. It's the reason I was a sports journalism major. So yeah, it doesn't feel like that's the path I'm going to end up on, because I kind of have to start my own blog and don't have the time to do that right now. Maybe down the road, but yeah, like that would be the dream, to be a fantasy journalist, I guess.
Interesting. Never knew that. Wow. That was wild. Just the degenerate story here. I didn't know that. We learned something new about everybody here on this program each and every week. Something we did not learn anything new about the Tennessee Volunteers, where the same story through 3 weeks. The offense has continued to struggle in conference play. The defense has continued to dominate, and Dylan Sampson has continued to be the best player on Tennessee's offense. None of that's really changed in conference play. Tennessee 2-1 in those games. They beat Florida for the second time in their last 3 seasons. First time they've beaten Florida in back-to-back home games since 1990 and 1992. Most important development for Tennessee in this game coming out of it is what, in your estimation, Ryan Schumpert?
It's kind of hard when you talk developments because, like you said, it was in so many ways such a similar game to the Arkansas game the week before. I'll just say in short, Keenan Pili getting injured and his season being done. I know we'll talk more about that later, so I won't harp on that too much now. But I think it's the offensive line looking really, really bad again against what, being at home, you thought, okay, it might be a little bit better. Florida, fine pass rush, but not a great one. You think they might hold up fine there. And I mean, Florida, granted, had been good the week before against a fine UCF rushing attack. But besides that, I mean, in the A&M and Miami games, and even the Mississippi State game, Florida's run defense was really bad, and Tennessee could not run the ball at all in this game, or very little in this game, besides a few plays here or there. And certainly Dylan Sampson had a lot to do with those plays more than the offensive line did. I guess besides maybe his touchdown run, there was good blocking on that play, or his longer touchdown run. I think it was just how bad the offensive line looked, given that it was at home. It felt like kind of like what I said last week, where surely it won't be this bad again. It's usually not as bad as it looks or as good as it looks. It looked maybe not quite just as bad in pass protection, but it still looked really bad. And then it also was bad in the run game. So I think that's probably my biggest takeaway from the game.
I mean, Cooper's been really good all season long.
Yeah.
Cooper is solid.
Harris has been pretty good too. Spraggs is the one I don't get. He's been really good for Tennessee for multiple years, and he's just struggled now for half a season.
Yeah, I don't really know what to make of that, but it's still like you've seen enough good football from Spraggs that you're like, I'll believe it when I see it that that's a long-term thing for Spraggs. But I think the other part of it is just I don't know if you agree, Jack, but to me, I think Lance Hurd took a step forward, and John Campbell was more of like the 3 penalties, and I think he struggled more at right tackle than Hurd struggled at left as the game went on. Like the first quarter, I think was a little choppy for Hurd, but I think especially in the second half, I mean, Hurd was running out, pulling for Sampson on the big touchdown run, and just different things where I think Hurd got better as the game went on. And I kind of wrote about this today, where I think Hurd is settling in, and to me, it's starting to feel like it was just the lack of playing time for a while, just being away, and then getting back into shape and getting back into his groove in this offense and getting more and more comfortable. I'm hedging. I think I'm looking at Hurd as a situation that I think is going to continue to get better. I think as the season goes on, I think Hurd's going to settle in and be fine. Campbell is the one in more of my concern, where now we have a good track record here through the season where I'm like, I don't know, like the penalties plus the pass pro plus, like it seems like there's multiple things still going on with Campbell at right tackle that kind of concern me.
Yeah, Lance Hurd has the higher ceiling. I mean, that's why he was the big portal Lance, John Campbell's 5th, 6th year, and he is what he is, I think. And Hurd will probably get a bad rap, and I've probably fell victim to this too immediately after the game, just because Hurd's bad plays early on were so bad. Like, it was just such an eyesore, those plays, especially it was like back to back too on that drive for Lance Hurd. But you're right, he did get better as I went back and watched throughout the game. So I think you have to be still a little bit optimistic about that position and it improving. But just overall, the tackle spot, I don't think both are going to be above average consistently. And that hurts. And I don't think the tackle spot will ever be a strength for Tennessee. And you talked about the run blocking and the run game in general. As Dylan Sampson always does, found a way late in game and, was able to break a couple of runs. But that's what I noticed in the first half. It's just, I went into this game like all Tennessee has to do is literally run the ball almost every down and they'll win. And they weren't doing that, but they were running it a lot. And Sampson's average was just not good. And I'm like, how is this happening against this Florida team with such a porous run defense? So that was probably a development I was very concerned about in this game. It got there in the end, but it doesn't feel like Tennessee can just run down someone's throat no matter who it is. Even in a good matchup, it wasn't dominant for Tennessee when I expected it to be. And if the run game just can't flat out be above average every game or dominate teams who aren't great at stopping the run, and the passing game is going to be this bad with this bad of protection and this mediocrity at wide receiver, it's hard to have high hopes for this offense. Last thing I'll say about a development from this game offensively is Chris Brazzell, I thought, looked his best. And, the catch that didn't count was awesome, and he made some sick plays. I know just the passing offense wasn't great, so the numbers maybe don't bear it out, but I thought Chris Brazzell definitely looked his best and probably got more opportunity with Dante, obviously not getting his normal snap share.
Well, I didn't understand the Dante part of it, where Dante comes in late
right?
and he was a big factor, obviously, in overtime. He didn't get many snaps, but I don't understand if he was ready to go at the end, why we didn't see Dante earlier on in this game, especially with Brew. I mean, Brew didn't have a catch, right? Like, I don't even think they...
Brew didn't have it. He had one target when Nico slung that bad boy into triple coverage in the first half.
Yeah, that was to Brew.
Yes.
But, I mean, I don't know. I didn't really understand the Dante thing. Did anybody ask about that this week to Heupel?
No, nobody asked about that. I mean, I was surprised he played like after the game, seeing the snap counts the next day. I was surprised he played as few snaps as he did because I noticed multiple times in the second half of plays that he was in, like different drives. And the way that came out, it would have only had to been like him playing one play, like him coming in on a couple third downs. So that was a little bit strange. I mean, we've quickly seen Josh Heupel just trying to not get myself in trouble here. Bend the truth with the availability report. Dante Thornton, good, plays 3 plays. Christian Harrison doesn't play a snap. He was good to go according to the availability report. So all that stuff was strange. And the Brew McCoy thing, like, did I not think he could catch? Was it just, is that truly how the game played out? That it just didn't end up throwing him the ball any, when despite the fact that he's been Nico's number 1 target all season? I don't know. That whole thing felt really weird to me. And if you don't feel confident, and they got him the ball one time and it was on a jet sweep, which Brew McCoy, not really a jet sweep guy when you think about his game a whole lot. To me, that was just very weird. And it's like, if he's not pretty close to 100%, why are you not just playing Mike Matthews or Caleb Webb in this spot? I don't get it. And like, my only counter argument to that would be, all right, Brew McCoy, great blocker, and certainly that matters in the run game too. But Tennessee didn't throw a single, like, one of those wide receiver screens in the entire game. So it wasn't like that was a big plan of, all right, we're going to throw a lot of these quick passes like we did against Arkansas. We need him out there to block. So a lot of the stuff with the receivers didn't make sense to me. Though Chris Brazzell, very good game. I'm completely with you, Jack.
I mean, that's a big development. If Chris Brazzell, is it Brazzell or Brazzell? Because I went Brazzell first, and then I was saying Brazzell for a while because I heard some other people say Brazzell.
I don't really know, but Brazzell's is cooler. If it's
Brazzell is cooler.
Just take that.
All right.
One thing I'll say too, quickly on Brazzell / Brazzell, like, I think they need to run more of those plays, like the one you talked about, Jack, that he didn't get his foot on bounds, or kind of when he high point, he got pushed out. Like, that was the whole thing he was supposed to be good at, was jump balls. That's what we saw in the little bit we got to watch in fall camp, was him making plays on a lot of jump balls. And now Tennessee did have a couple instances of guys running open down the field in this game, but I don't think you're going to have a ton of that in their offense. So I think it makes more sense to take some of these deep shots by just throwing some one-on-one balls to him.
Well, part of the development too, I mean, I think Nico was a lot better rolling out. Like that needs to be just a consistent part of this offense is Nico rolling out and throwing. He's just really good off platform. Like Nico is really comfortable off platform. And that's very different than any quarterback we've seen in the Heupel offense to this point. Like he has a very different skill set than than Hendon, and a very different skill set than Joe. I thought he ran a little bit more. I thought Tennessee would actually call a lot more design runs for Nico in this game than they ended up doing.
I wonder if
that was something
fumble
I'd
on
written
the first
down.
drive changed plans.
I didn't really understand that, especially because Florida not doing a 3-2-6 stack was interesting. Florida was like, no, we're going to just run our normal defense. And I wondered how that would affect how Tennessee was going to go about stuff. I mean, the tight ends weren't really involved. Kitselman's kind of fallen off the last couple weeks as a pass catcher for Tennessee. We saw a little bit of Ethan Davis, and I liked what I saw, and I just don't really understand when you're having these kind of issues in the passing game that Ethan Davis is not more involved, because we talk about Matthews getting more involved. Davis, you're older, bigger target, and it kind of goes to the Brew thing, to your point, Ryan, where I wondered the same thing, where if it's one thing, like it's cool because you heard all week, Brew's a warrior, that much is true, like obvious, and same with Squirrel, pushing through and playing in this game, but it's also like if Brew isn't really like it's one of those chicken or the egg things where we don't know inside the building what that looks like. But if Brew can't catch, and if Brew you're not designing a lot of stuff for Brew because of what he's dealing with, then why not go somewhere else, especially when you are struggling in the passing game? Like that's part of when you hype up the depth all off season, that should come into effect, right? Like I don't know, Jack, that was my first thought. It's like if you're going to hype up this depth and everything else, then hey, Brew can't go. Like, we appreciate you trying to gut it out, but like, hey man, rest up and get right, and then let's show our depth. Let's show the other guys we have that we can rotate and do this and the other. I don't know. I was just kind of surprised at the wide receiver rotation as a whole, and where they went with the ball in this game against Florida.
Yeah, it was weird, and Mike's the one you obviously want to see play more because I think Chaz and Webb are what they are.
But we haven't seen enough of Webb. I don't know. Webb, I don't know.
I just don't think he's ever going to be a difference maker, for Tennessee.
Yeah. I don't know.
They're solid, but like and Chaz is obviously ahead of Webb.
I do know.
You do know what?
It says Chase goes, I don't know about Caleb Webb. I do know.
I don't need
to
see.
You don't
know, Ryan. You don't know. We haven't seen it. We don't know.
We saw plenty of it last year.
We haven't seen. I'm talking a lot of snaps. We haven't seen a lot of snaps from Caleb Webb.
Well, there's no world where he's getting a lot of snaps, and they clearly feel more confident with Brew McCoy playing with one hand out there than they do.
I don't know. I'm still like the Cedric Tillman, like he has the same exact size and frame. I won't quit it. I won't move off. His high school tape at McEachern, really good. I'm not selling my Caleb Webb stock.
His look.
Yes. I'm not selling my stock. I don't care. You're not going to force me into this.
That's how I am with Dante.
He's not bad. He's like a Mocha Ekfor and Karan Butler. He's not bad. But
I'm just not selling it. Y'all can next year. It's the one, like that's all he needs. 1 year and then off to the NFL next year. Like the final year. Stick around one more year, Caleb. And then like the breakout. I don't know. I can't do it. He has the look. I'm telling you. I just can't. Like you see it and you're like, could it be a Ramel Keaton thing? He waits his turn and then look, that final year.
Ramel Keaton, what a season he had.
I know, but that blew us all away. Yeah. Like, I couldn't believe the kind of year Ramel Keaton had last year. I don't know.
No, in 22, I think was the more surprise. Last year, he was bad.
But he was going to be, like, Joe, the connection was, we thought coming into the year that Joe and Ramel were going to be really good together.
Yes, and they weren't.
I know. But I'm just saying,
no one saw Keaton coming, and he was solid as a rotational piece. But
I don't know. I'm just not going to pretend to have a strong read on this because it's just been everyone I thought is going to play. Like, I don't know if you all feel the same, but like I'm just going to stop guessing where Tennessee's going at receiver and how this is all going to work because I don't have a read for it at all.
I think you just continue. I just think you see what you saw at Brazzell in this game and you continue going to that squirrel short area target. They come out with the tempo, bang, bang, squirrel, like moving down the field. Like, yes, it looks so good. And then the fumble, right? And it stalls everything. And then it's just like, I don't know. It just gets so clunky. Like that first drive right at the start until Sampson was gashing them late. It was like, this is the best the offense looked. And I think you stick with what works. Squirrel short area, Brazzell getting Dante involved in designed plays to where he can display his explosiveness, and then Brew a third down option maybe. I don't know. I don't think we're going to see some receiver just have a blow up season though. Like no surprises coming.
I don't know. Brazzell
breaking out.
I'm also not selling the Brazzell
to me,
stock.
That wouldn't even be that big of a surprise.
Not selling the Brazzell stock.
We've all been hyping him up. We've all been.
I know, but
up.
Here's the thing though, and this is what I talked about. I mean, this is this Saturday we've talked about, like, when is it actually going to be go time for the receivers? Like, when is it actually going to be, hey, like, we have to see some of these deep bombs hit. We have to see some of these guys performing at a high level, or it's going to finally bite Tennessee in the tail. It's Saturday against Alabama. Like, this is the game. This secondary. Wait, say it again.
It was 2 weeks ago at Arkansas.
I don't think it was that, though. They still could have won that game. Like, Arkansas's offense wasn't scaring Tennessee. Like, they did enough to win that game. But I'm saying Alabama is the first offense they're going to play where they're going to have to score. The Tennessee passing game is going to have to be good. The Tennessee passing game to win on Saturday cannot look anything close to what it's looked like the last 3 weeks. I think this is the first time Tennessee's back is going to be against the wall where Nico and the receivers have to play at a high level to win the game.
I think the pressure is way more on Nico, though. Like, the pressure is on Nico, not the receiver. Like, there is pressure on the receiver, but the pressure's on Nico because he hasn't shown it.
Yeah, I don't know. You're right, Chase, and the fact that they'll score more points in this game. And look, Alabama's defense has certainly had plenty of struggles, but I just don't.
You can't be shut out
again
in this game in the first half, and
yeah, no,
like, that's just not happening.
I just don't get this notion that there's all of a sudden, all right, the pressure's on the passing game, it's all going to click. Like, I don't know. I'm just saying, after 7 games, this is such a huge game for me because this, like, if it's not now, I just don't know when it happens this year. If it's not against this Alabama secondary, because I think you're going to struggle with the front that Kentucky's going to throw at Tennessee. I think this offensive line is going to struggle there in a couple weeks. I think Mississippi State, I think that'll be fine, but we'll see. I mean, Jeff Lebby and Heupel know each other really well. We'll see what that game looks like with those two going up against each other. But Georgia, we know how that's gone in the passing game through 3 years. That you can't anticipate until that's the ultimate. You have to see it to believe it in terms of Tennessee being able to throw the football on Georgia. And then Vanderbilt. I don't know. Like, Vanderbilt's just won. Like, we'll see where Vanderbilt's at. But right now, that's a toss up. But I look at Bama, and this is the secondary at home in this spot. I think all eyes are going to be on Milroe and Alabama's offense against Tennessee's defense. But I think all the folks who cover Tennessee and watch them a lot, all our eyes are on the Tennessee offense versus this very gettable Bama defense. One of the worst Bama defenses in a long time. So
for sure,
I don't know. Fan response.
My eyes are on both.
No. Nope, you only get one. You don't get, like, one set of eyes, Ryan. You only get to pick one to lock in on.
I mean, it depends on, like, what's more important for Tennessee to win the game. I think it's definitely the offense. Like, so in that sense, you set your eyes on offense. But to me, I think I know what the offense is. Like, it can be moderately better, but I don't think some big click is coming for this offense.
Well, the final thing on the Florida thing that I kind of was surprised about, and Jack, you kind of hit on this a little bit. Like, Cam Seldon's, like, been in the depth chart the last 2 weeks. It's not a Cam Seldon or. Cam Seldon is at number 2. The ors are Bishop, Keith, and Lewis. And we didn't see Cam Seldon again this week. And, I mean, his size and build against this front that Florida's thrown out, I was surprised that in the first half throws, we didn't see a Cam Seldon drive or two. Like, I'm surprised that Cam Seldon has not found his way back in it for at least a drive to see where he's at, because I think he is a different kind of back than what Samson's throwing.
Cam Seldon, by the way.
It's what?
Cam Seldon is an or.
I thought the or came after him, though. I thought the first or was after Bishop.
No, it's after Cam Seldon. Cam Seldon or Deshaun Bishop or Keith Peyton Lewis.
I think it's a trust thing because Tennessee's been playing these close games where there's no margin for error, and they just trust Dylan Sampson way more. Like,
but you still got to try, right? Like, one drive, see where he's at. I don't know.
I don't even keep trying. So I don't. If you have even remotely a little bit of doubt in the types of games they played the last 2 weeks, heck no.
But think about who they've played. They were playing Jalen Wright as a true freshman. They played Dylan Sampson as a true freshman. They've run with that 3 running back trio the first 3 years, and they have gone so Dylan Sampson heavy. We haven't seen, even Jalen Wright last year didn't get this much run.
I think Sampson's just better than all of those guys in more facets of the game.
Are we sure Sampson's better than Wright?
I think he's more complete now. Yeah, dude. His
I don't
pass
think he's
pro-
way better.
Last couple, he's not as explosive, but I think he's a better. He'll be better in the NFL.
I think it's more they don't trust Sampson's so much better than the guys behind him compared to last year. And I wrote about this today, so I shot the numbers, but Sampson's like roughly 20 carries behind however many Jalen Wright had last year. So he's through 7
Like 20
games.
carries total?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's about to eclipse it. But the one thing I will say is, like, they played 3 running backs in 21, but not really ever at the same time. They played 3 running backs when Tyon Evans had his falling out with the team. So
I'll never forget the Mizzou game. The Tyon Evans Mizzou game.
He was good when he played.
Dude,
really
Tyon Evans was a dude.
He was. I agree. But I think there's just Dylan Sampson's just in an offense that does not have a whole lot working. He's the one thing that is definitively working. And so I think they want to play him a ton. And then I think there's a good bit of trust in Deshaun Bishop. So there's not too many possessions when Dylan Sampson is not on the field. And I don't think there's really enough for them to hardly split it up between 2 different players. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot more Deshaun Bishop and no Cam Seldon.
Jack, the fan response. Do you think it's justified or overblown? The sky is falling with Nico in the offense through 6 games this season.
Well, I think it's there's always going to be an extreme that is too extreme. So if you're saying that Nico is just done as like he's just never going to be good ever, that's obviously not the case. That's just too extreme. And that's just
Cade Klubnik over here. Year 3, Cade Klubnik.
Yeah.
Now one of the college football's best quarterbacks.
I mean, I don't know if I'd go that far, but sure.
Cade Klubnik's dealing since the Georgia
he's
game.
also playing Wake Forest and Stanford and a bunch of terrible teams.
You can't sleep on the Deacons. You can't sleep on the Deeks.
I think I can.
Clawfins.
I will gladly sleep on the Deeks. Anyway, but I do think
Not a
it's
mesh guy,
justified
Jack
if you're
Foster.
saying that I don't see a path to improvement for this year, and this offense cannot win a playoff game. I think that's justified. They haven't shown you any reason to have a lot of confidence in this team being able to win 10 games this year and win a playoff game, like reaching the potential that we thought was all there 3 weeks ago with this team. Thinking that ship is completely sailed is not out of reason. Like it's justifiable to think that way. And I probably think that way, honestly. So,
but you say all that, and it's like this great analytics site, theanalyst.com. Tennessee is still projected to go 10-2. Georgia 8-4.
Damning.
Like, I don't know. I'm just looking at this, and I'm like, the numbers still really I've been combing through stuff. The analytics models still like Tennessee's optimism and their chances to go 10-2. And I mean, obviously you have to split Georgia and Bama, I think, to get to the playoff at this point. But I don't know. Bama looks very gettable. Like, I was tagged in a tweet tonight of like, oh, what are your feelings about Tennessee Bama on Saturday? I used the Lloyd Christmas gif of like, I don't know. Like, nothing would surprise me on Saturday because I think this is such a weird matchup, and I think both fan bases are like, I have no idea what to make of our team right now. Like, Alabama and Tennessee both have really good shots of making the CFP. Mizzou, clearly not. It could be way worse if you're a Tennessee fan right now. Like, Mizzou, huge letdown thus far. Ole Miss, huge letdown. It's kind of opening up still for Tennessee to slide right into the playoff if they can just split Alabama and Georgia. I mean, Georgia looks even more gettable. Look at that secondary at Georgia. They got toasted by a true freshman quarterback with Mississippi State in Athens this past Saturday. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just I understand the reflex for the battered Vols syndrome of like the sky is falling, this and the other. And we talk about like this the I don't even know the expression, the buck stop. I don't even know. I'm not going to throw it out there. I'm not an expression guy. And I just think it's that, I guess, cliche of like eventually it's going to catch up to Heupel in this offense that the offense keeps putting the defense in these bad spots. But then it's like James Pierce just makes a strip sack on the one. James Pierce is going to play on Saturday.
Defense is elite.
I just think that's going to keep happening. I think this defense is still going to keep making plays. This front seven is still going to keep causing problems as with them staying pretty healthy through 6 games. Losing Keenan Pili, we'll see what that looks like, but Jeremiah Tielander's been good, and he's played a lot of snaps for Tennessee. Boo Carter had his best game as a Vol. He was all over the place on Saturday. Jermod McCoy and Ricky Gibson, I think, played really well on Saturday. So I think the starters for Tennessee, outside of Turrentine, who had a rough night against Florida, I think they look really good. But then you saw Christian Charles, who I think looked really good on Saturday and had settled in at safety. So I just look at it as like we look at it like they can't keep getting away with this kind of offensive struggles. But then there's part of me that like, I don't know. The rest of the SEC outside of Texas is pretty gettable. This defense, I think, is going to stay as one of the 3 best defenses in college football. Dylan Sampson, if he stays healthy, is going to keep Tennessee in these games, especially in the second half. I think there's a path to some of the stuff getting cleaned up on offense. And is that enough to still get to 10-2? I think it's definitely still possible when you look around the rest of the SEC. So I understand both perspectives for Vol fans, where they're like, everything's still in front of us, this, that, and the other, we have a good chance. The other ones who are like, yeah, but even if we do, this offense isn't good enough to win, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. I understand both sides of this, is what I'm saying.
You are correct that, yeah, the SEC is very gettable, and look at the teams on Tennessee's schedule. None of them have looked dominant. But you also see how every week there's just chaos reigning, and you can never, in the SEC this year, you just can't say, oh, that's a gimme win. Like, yeah, Tennessee's schedule isn't super difficult.
Yeah.
Bama isn't great, and Georgia has flaws, and Kentucky just lost to Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt's Vanderbilt, right? So they could win every game. I don't think Georgia is a great chance at all, but could beat Bama, obviously. But it's hard to say that this Tennessee team with this many flaws is going to run the table.
But would it surprise you? I mean, the analytics models I saw like went out. They had like the 7th best odds of winning out or something I was looking at. And I'm like, what is happening? Like I don't know. I think we're all so locked in and watch them so much. And we're like, just, there's no way, right? And then you think about it and you're like, well, maybe there is a way that some of this stuff is enough with the defense with Sampson and company that I think there is still a path. Like, I think, Ryan, you and I have talked about this, where, I mean, it wouldn't surprise either of us if they still finish 10-2 with how the season's gone. It also wouldn't surprise us if they finished 8-4. Maybe 7-5, I think, would be a surprise. That means things really got out of hand. I think 7-5 would be a surprise. But I think there's still a really realistic path to go 8-4 or 10-2. Like, so it's hard to read.
For sure. I mean, you all both summed it up well. It's hard to get a read on any of these teams in the SEC, and none of them are great by any means. So
I think Texas is great.
What's that?
I think Texas is great. I think we got to read on Texas.
Yeah, no, I generally agree, but again, I mean, Texas hasn't played.
I think they're going to beat Georgia,
but I do think they're the best team in the conference.
Yeah.
But to me, because of all of that, I just don't. Kentucky, the gap between Tennessee and Kentucky, smaller than we thought, and that really has little to do with Kentucky. The gap between Tennessee and Vanderbilt, way smaller than we thought, and that has a whole lot to do with Vanderbilt. To where, again, I see the path to 10-2 still, but where before it was just like, all right, split, win one of Oklahoma, or just split out. When you lose one game, split Alabama, Georgia, and you're going to beat everybody else. To me, that doesn't feel, not that could happen, but it's just not. It's far, far from a given. And I do think, you said, you did the same thing. I do think it's going to catch up to them. The making the plays and putting the defense in a bad spot. Frankly, I think it's going to catch up to them on Saturday. I just don't think all these teams are going to continue to be grossly incompetent in scoring range when they play Tennessee. Some of them might be. I don't think Alabama will. I think Alabama.
But we've seen it. Milroe and the fumbling stuff. Like, you could see a situation with the crowd noise, the loudest venue in college football, that they struggle with it.
It's possible, but not to the extent that it has. I mean, the last 2 weeks have been crazy how incompetent teams have been. And now I'll turn around and say, and I said it in our conversations yesterday, like, Tennessee makes like 2 of 5 plays that they almost made happen in this game, or they don't fumble a handoff exchange. They scored 27 points. So I don't mean to say that it was just as simple as, Tennessee should have gotten killed by Florida, to where it kind of did feel that way in the Arkansas game. But I don't know. I just have a hard time thinking it's going to continue to be to this degree of teams just butchering scoring opportunities. And each of the last 2 weeks, the teams have moved the ball pretty well against Tennessee. And it didn't really matter against Arkansas because of the last drive they made something happen. I don't think Tennessee's going to get to keep on playing backup quarterbacks in the fourth quarter of games.
That was
bodes
huge.
Pretty well for their chances to go 10-2. Because, again, I don't think Tennessee wins that game if Graham Mertz doesn't get hurt.
I don't know. You say that. I've heard that sentiment.
Yeah,
I don't know if y'all watched Billy Napier and you watched that game on Saturday. Like, this blind faith that they wouldn't have found a different way to lose that football game is wild to me. I'm like, did y'all watch Florida in that game? They had a runoff at the end of the first half. They gave away 3 points.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
what do you mean? It was a guarantee. Like, they
they-
would have won this game if Graham Mertz stays in. I'm like, did you watch how they were how that game was going? No, I can't throw that in there. Can't do it.
That's why
Toss
I said
it out.
things. But Florida's offense went from moving the ball pretty easily just about every time they touched it with Graham Mertz into the game.
I mean, I get all that.
to not
I
doing
just,
anything.
I don't know. I saw a lot from Billy Napier and how that game was going for Florida. And they were in the red zone quite a lot, even with Graham Mertz, and still doing nothing to
How in
show
the
for it.
world did Billy Napier not go for 2?
That's tough. I didn't like the answer either, where it's like,
The answer made no sense. He is
you gotta go
bad,
for it.
man.
What did he say?
It's hard to believe he was ever successful anywhere. He is grossly incompetent.
What did he say was the reason?
Let me get the exact quote.
I figured the reason would be, hey, their offense was terrible all game. Take your chances. Like, that would be the answer. They would say that. That's the.
Here's
thought
what he
process.
said. We had a play that we felt good about, and then obviously they burned their timeout. And I think we felt from the 3 there, we were playing pretty good on both sides of our team at that point in time. So I felt like, let's go play overtime, give our guys a chance to play more plays. I thought defensively we kept ourselves in it. Wasn't quite ready to do that at that point in time. It's like, I don't know. Just because they burned the timeout, you weren't. You should like. I don't know. What do you have to lose there? And Tennessee, all the pressure's on Tennessee. I don't know. I would have gone for it.
He went with the whole, because typically my general logic on these things is if you're playing worse than the other team, you should go for it. And if you're playing better, you should want to extend the game. And he went with the whole, we're playing better. They really weren't once Mertz got hurt. Their offense couldn't really do anything besides that drive where they had a good punt return, which there were 2 clear blocking the backs on. Just unbelievable.
I said that, and I was like, why is the broadcast not talking about it? It was multiple clear blocking the backs there, and it wasn't talked about at all.
Yeah, I mean, it really took a borderline miracle 3rd and 18. Like, maybe that's not miracle territory, but it's close. Like, very improbable play.
Yeah. And then they get the ball in overtime and they promptly lose 10 yards on the first 2 plays. And you're just running the ball on 3rd and 20 to try to get a shorter field goal.
Can I tell you too? I was kind of really mad at the TV where I'm like, all right, let's kneel this out. Let Max, like the most clutch, reliable kicker Tennessee's had in a long time, just let him kick the field goal.
He hasn't had to make one meaningful kick in his career.
I trust Max.
Good.
I trust Max.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did y'all not have that thought where you're like, we're running some more plays here? All right, we're really going to keep going inside the 5, inside the... I don't know.
Taking Gilbert over Money McGrath?
Yeah, 100%.
I would have kicked it on if it got to the 3rd down.
Campbell was better than McGrath, and I like them all. Campbell was good last year, but
I would have kicked it on 3rd down if it got to a 3rd down with a short field goal.
I was getting nervous.
I was not like... You don't want to. I did not want to. For Tennessee's sake, leave it up to a kick. Especially,
I don't know. I didn't feel good about it.
I loved the first down play call. To throw to the pass. I had things were moving in slow motion as I thought Dante Thornton was about to reach for the goal line from 2 yards out on what would have been 1st and goal, needing a field goal to win. So I don't know about that, but I liked I thought it was a really. And I don't know the right term to use it, like a smart aggression that Tennessee played with offensively in that overtime period of not just running the ball, but also not throwing a lot of risky passes. Essentially not asking your offensive line to pass protect.
Yeah. Overreaction, underreaction, Jack Foster. Losing Keenan Pili for the season is going to end up being a huge detriment to this Tennessee defense down the stretch here.
I won't say huge, but it'll hurt them for sure. I think it'll hurt their run defense slightly. And just the fact that he's a leader on that group, it's cliche, but I think it'll hurt. But like you said, T-Lander's been playing well. Carter's have been playing great. Like, I like that duo a lot. And you were talking earlier today in our group chat about the room being thin. I think that's a reality. But I don't think Pili was just going to be, all SEC guy or anything like that. So it's not like they're losing one of the best players on the team, certainly one of the biggest leaders and a solid player with a high floor week to week. But I don't think it's going to have a huge impact.
Do you agree, Ryan?
100%. Exactly what Jack said. detrimental, but it's not just debilitating either. It becomes also what Jack said and we talked about earlier. You're now one injury away from being in real trouble at the linebacker spot, and being super thin there and having to start somebody that is playable. Jalen Smith, Caleb Perry, you're asking 15 to 20 plays from a game. You feel great about those guys. Situationally, maybe a one series in the game here or there. You can hold up fine with those guys, but then you start having to ask those guys to play 40, 50 snaps. You feel a lot more dicey. So it hurts. He's a good player. Yeah, I mean, you hate it for him, the injury. Bad luck he's had in his 2 years at Tennessee, and even going back to BYU is brutal for someone that seems like a great guy. And it'll hurt Tennessee, but I do have a good bit of confidence that Jeremiah Thielander will step up and play at a pretty high level.
I'm curious how many snaps Thielander gets. Like, how much Enge rotates here now that they're a little bit thinner in that group? Do you still stick with get Perry? And I mean, Spillman, we'll see. I don't really know what's going on with his injury, or he's been out for the last couple weeks, but I'm curious where he factors in if he comes back into the fold down the stretch here. But I don't know. Like, Perry is now going to go back into behind Thielander on the inside spot, so that'll be interesting to see how he handles that. But to your point, Ryan, it's like they stay healthy from here on out. You still feel okay. Like they can get by with Thielander and Carter playing a bunch of snaps, and Jalen Smith and Caleb Perry handling 15 to 20, whatever it is. But the thing to point out to folks, Aaron Carter got hurt last year in the middle of the year and then was out for the year. So you hope that's not a recurring thing for him either. But that's still something to keep in the back of your mind. I think if you're William Enge, you're like, that's why you got to keep rotating. Is you just never know. Aaron Carter is turning into a budding superstar with Tennessee at that spot. But I still think even with the injury to Pili, where I do think there's going to be a little bit of drop off. And I'm most curious about Thielander in space and coverage and how teams attack, especially Milroe. And I mean, run defense too. Like Jalen Milroe gashed those Georgia linebackers and beating them to the edge 3 weeks ago. What does Thielander look like in those spots? Because I think Alabama's going to challenge these young Tennessee linebackers on Saturday. So I don't know. I think maybe in the short-term moment, you'll notice the absence of Pili on Saturday against Alabama. But by and large, the leadership and everything else, like Ryan, to your point, he just seems like a great dude that he'd be awesome to bring on as a GA going forward. He's someone that you would like to find a place for if he's up for it and coaching and all that kind of stuff. It's like, hey, can we find a way to get Keenan Pili back in the staff of some sort? Because he's just solid, good dude, and hope for the full recovery for Pili. Final thing here before we get out of here tonight, guys. We talked about it, the Vols offense versus the Bama's defense. Right now, Ryan Schumpert, we're taping this on a Monday night. Does your gut say that Tennessee's offense wins the battle against Bama's defense on Saturday, and what you've seen from Bama's defense the last 2 weeks with Vanderbilt and South Carolina? Or does your gut say that right now Bama's defense is what ultimately wins out over Tennessee's offense?
What's the barrier for winning out?
I think
points or just vibes in it.
It's let's go. You said I'm a vibes guy on this podcast. Let's say the vibes. Like the vibes are Alabama's pass defense did enough against Tennessee's pass offense.
Yeah, I'm siding with Alabama. That's my thought. It's like what you said. We're so Tennessee centric and so locked into it, and me more so than probably either of y'all, because y'all will get to watch a lot more games on Saturdays than I do, and I did get to watch a decent bit of the Alabama game, but it's not like I watched a ton of the Vanderbilt game. So I'll lead with Alabama. But what I will say, something that's very interesting. I talked to Nick Kelly of Alabama.com earlier today for that weekly story we'll have on Wednesday, and sidebar, probably no one's really going to care about that on this program. I imagine most everybody's Tennessee fans. Nick Kelly, one of the absolute best in the business. Incredibly talented dude. I think he just does a phenomenal job covering Alabama football and basketball. He picked Tennessee to win. I thought that was really interesting. And again, it's a Monday prediction. Maybe and he kind of said, it's early. But I think that shows to what you said earlier, Chase, of like neither team really having a good feel, to where he was like, yeah, I just watched Alabama these last 2 weeks and I watched those games. I'm like, I think they're going to lose to Tennessee. And then Tennessee plays. And I'm like, yeah, maybe not. Yeah. And then he's like, I still side. And I think he had Tennessee scoring like 30, 31 points. So
I think they're going to have to score that to win. Like, I don't think there's a choice. Yeah.
Most 90% of the scenarios where Tennessee wins, they're going to have to score, 28, 30 plus. So again, my answer is no. I would side with Alabama's defense, but I think that's probably pretty locked into me being so Tennessee centric and seeing how bad Tennessee's pass offense has been really against anybody with a pulse this season.
Yeah, I think what it is, like you said, Ryan, you're so immersed into one team that after you watch 2 consecutive train wrecks, you have and you're like, I can't pick this team to win a game against a top 10 squad. Like, heck no, don't care where it is. So, and with Nick obviously being on the road adds another element to it all, but it's hard to pick Tennessee to win a game against a team that has a lot of talent. And say what you will about Alabama, but they still have a lot of talent, still beat Georgia. Given their offensive performance last 2 weeks, it's hard to say that team can win a game like this, and Alabama the same defensively. I would also side with Alabama's defense. I don't think they played just absolutely awful against South Carolina. It was a really weird game, and they honestly, Lenore Sellers couldn't get out of his way a couple of times, and it was pretty embarrassing at a couple of instances, but Alabama did force some turnovers, and they did make some things happen. I don't think it was just completely awful like it was against Vanderbilt. So they showed improvements. I honestly worry about Milroe falling flat and making a bunch of mistakes and this Tennessee defense dominating, or I guess it would be a worry for Bama, right? So this Tennessee defense dominating Bama's offense more than Tennessee's offense struggling against Bama's defense. Like, I think the gap could be larger in Tennessee's favor when their defense is on the field than when its offense is on the field against Bama's D, if that makes sense.
Maybe I'm crazy, but my gut is I think this is the best passing game we see this season from Tennessee. My gut is it's not gonna be Alabama Tennessee 2022.
Wow.
You don't say.
I don't think it's gonna be that.
You're telling me this now for the first time.
I think this Bama secondary is bad. I think the Bama secondary is gettable. I think this Bama defense has real problems. It's not going to get fixed in the middle of the year. I think this is going to be... It's so funny because I've already started thinking about like Saturday night and the Tony Basilio 5th quarter calls after this game because it was pretty brutal. There was like a huge split where there was like the fan base who was really mad at the other part of the Vol fan base. And comment below which way you fall on this because I'm curious what the Chase Thomas podcast listeners fall here in terms of how they felt with the win over Florida, where it's like there's a portion who's like, enjoy it. We never do this. We've lost this kind of game so many times. I don't care that this was ugly. I don't care that this was we got shut out in back-to-back first halves. Like, they're 5-1 with the playoff in front of us. And I understand that. And then there's the other path. They're like, it's going to come back to bite us. This is awful. The offense cannot keep putting the defense in this bind, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, the sky is falling. And they can't enjoy, like, the wins. Because ultimately, that is what it's about. Like, it's about ultimately winning these football games. Regardless of how ugly it is. I am so curious. Because if you beat Bama ugly, after beating Florida ugly, like, what if the offense isn't great still? Like, what if the offense is actually kind of still stuck in the mud in a lot of this game? But Dylan Sampson has the best game he's ever had as a Vol. And Tennessee actually runs all over Alabama. But it's just not fun. They do it in a really not fun way. And it's like 27-23, and Bama has the ball late, and Jalen Milroe fumbles into the end zone or something, so Tennessee escapes. And then are the calls still going to be like, oh, I cannot believe Bama outgained us, and we were on the ropes, and we got away with it again. Like, I am curious what the reaction is going to be, because Tennessee could absolutely get away from winning this game in an ugly fashion, because Bama has been in ugly games a lot already this season, and I think this is not the same Bama. Like, this could absolutely be an ugly Tennessee win again, and I wonder how Tennessee fans take back-to-back Tennessee wins over their rival in really ugly fashion with the offense. Because I have a theory. Do you know what's not fun as a fan? The defense being really good and the offense not. Like, I think so many fans would just rather win games or even lose games 52-46 than lose a game 27-23, and the offense sputters, but the defense is good. I think that's the problem, is the fans have been, they felt what 2022 was like, even with how bad that defense was for the majority of the year. Fan optimism was through the roof. We can beat anybody. We're going into Georgia. We can beat Georgia. We can go in and beat anybody because that offense was the number one scoring offense in college football. Now it's flipped, where this defense might be the number one defense in college football, and everyone's like, oh, can't do it. It's like Jace Pierce had one of the best plays you'll see a defensive end make all year long, forcing a fumble at the one. It's fun. The defense is really good. Bill Carter's awesome as a star. Like, this defense is great. You might not see a Tennessee defense this good ever again in your lifetime. You never know. I don't know. It's the best.
The absolutes in this whole just.
It's the best defense in the 21st century. It's the best defense in the 21st century for Tennessee. You're going to lose so many of these guys in the defensive line next year to the draft. Like, Pierce is gone. Lott's gone. Thomas is gone. Bailey's gone, I think. You just keep going up and down the list. They're gone. Like, you're going to have to replace a bunch of dudes, and you've recruited well, but it's going to be a very, very different line. You're never going to have this amount of depth on the defensive line that you had this year. Enjoy that part of it, because I do think this floor is so high with this Tennessee team because of what the defensive line depth actually is. Like, it's kind of crazy. But if you look around college football right now, what's winning more than anywhere else? Teams that have a great defensive line. These offensive lines are not good all across the sport. Quarterback play is not good all across the sport right now. If you have a defensive line like Tennessee's and a scoring defense like Tennessee, you're going to be in every game, and you might be in a lot more ugly games. I'm just curious, like, are you going to enjoy any of this? Folks, you're 5-1. Enjoy some of this. You might win ugly against Alabama.
I mean, that was a lot. I would just say I agree with you.
I have like 5 different things I wanted to say, across all 5 different talking points Chase just went through. So I'm just like,
I agree with your sentiment.
Built different.
I agree with your sentiment that fans should have enjoyed the win on Saturday.
That's all you got from that? Oh,
I mean, you just said so many things, and so many of them directly contradicted the things that you said, not only yesterday, but literally 20 minutes ago on the podcast. And I'm sure you'll have different opinions on them by Thursday, so I'm just not going to hit on all of them. But I agree, fans should have enjoyed the win more. I will say, if they win ugly on Saturday, I don't think it'll matter. I think the win ugly upsetment comes off losing a game that way and being 2 touchdown favorites against Florida, where getting through Alabama, beating Alabama as underdogs, I don't really think it'll matter how it looks. I think you'll see a whole lot less of that.
I hope so.
No, yeah, it'll all be positive. Like, if the defense wins this game with huge plays, like, that'll be the noise. It won't be, oh, Nico struggled again. And honestly, if Tennessee wins this game, there's 90% chance in my mind that that's how it goes. Is that, like I said, Milroe falls flat, defense dominates, makes some big plays, flips field, stuff like that. So,
can we also make Jerron McCoy the permanent punt returner? He's got juice back there. It's time to make the change full time.
He was the only one that returned punts in this game, so
but he actually goes. He attacks. Like, he's actually like he's aggressive. He's an aggressive punt returner. I miss D. Williams every week, and we took him for granted. He should have gotten an 8th year of eligibility, 9th year, whatever. He should have. The Cam Rising rule should have applied to D. Williams. He should have been allowed to be the Tennessee punt returner for as long as he wants.
I cannot believe Cam Rising has another year potentially.
How's that possible?
It's so stupid.
He shouldn't come back. I would move on.
He should be banned from college. Like, no, you can't. Don't care.
Wow.
He's so soft. Like, what is this?
I think year 8's when it really. I think year 8's the year. Cam Rising, year 8.
He's looking more comfortable and confident in the offense. I think this is the year things click.
I think Florida State needs to get in on the Cam Rising sweepstakes next year. 2025 QB1. Cam Rising, Florida State.
Mike Norvell and Cam Rising have their last year together. Ooh. Because Norvell ain't coaching after that year.
Oof.
If they had Cam Rising next year, it ain't working. I'll tell you now, it's gonna be a disaster.
Yeah, I don't think Cam Rising. If Cam Rising plays another year of college football, but also I don't if you're a Ute fan, I'm losing my mind. Like, no, like I am emailing Kyle Whittingham. No, you don't get to do this. Like, you have to turn the page. I don't like wish him the best, but it can't be here. We cannot do another year of like, is he gonna play? Is he not? And bank our whole season on this. That's insane. You can't do it again.
So much worse is because literally every week it's like, oh, he's a game time decision. And then he'll go through warm-ups and then magically be inactive.
You know who else is a game time decision if I'm a Utes fan? Me. I'm a game time decision of watching this game.
Yeah.
Golly. There's a lot more stuff to do in Salt Lake City.
But while we are finding years of eligibility for people who don't need more years of eligibility, NCAA, you got more years of eligibility for Keenan Pili?
Yeah. The Dave Chappelle.
Yes, Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
You got any more for Keenan Pili? He's only played 6 years, maybe 7.
No, I mean, it might be Cooper Mays for me. Like, it might be Cooper. It might be like.
No path to that.
Yeah. There's some other options.
Cooper Mays would be generational for Tennessee to come back.
Yeah. Like Cooper,
Not
one
even a
more.
10-year deal.
Yeah.
College football is going to be that in 30 years. It's going to be like players getting contracted.
Let him get his doctorate. Come on, Cooper. Dr. Coop. As long as he wants to be here, like Cooper Mays thrive as the longtime center. I don't know.
Kentucky basketball players are going to have so many degrees in agriculture in 25 years. I reference whatever y'all said. I can tell.
I have no idea what that was.
All their one and done players always major in agriculture.
Okay.
It's like apparently the easiest major at school or something.
I mean, you would know that because you're a Zoysia guy. Like
Yeah,
you were
that's
talking
true.
turf this week. Are you a St. Augustine grass kind of guy? Are you a Zoysia? Are you
I'm a
a
Zoysia
fescue?
I mean, it depends on what you're talking about. For the yard, for golf course, for football
Yard,
field.
definitely yard. Like in your ideal house here, or looking 10 years from down the line, Ryan. Are you going? Which way are you going?
Field turf.
I like the fescue. Yeah.
Fescue's pretty good. Did you say field turf, Jack?
There's someone in my neighborhood in South Knoxville that has field turf as their yard, and it's pretty funny. It looks good.
I like it in the back. I would do something like that in the back. Like if you
Run a
fenced
football
in area, turn the backyard into a field turf. I think that'd be cool.
Run a little
But
7
front
on-
yard, nah, you gotta have something. I like the
Little Oklahoma
crunchiness
drill.
of the St. Augustine. A lot of downtown Atlanta has it. Like I like the crunchy feel of the St. Augustine.
Fair enough.
Love that grass talk to wrap up on Monday night of this podcast. Ryan, what can the good folks check out from you and the team over at Rocky Top Insider this week?
Busy week. As things start to get rolling, basketball preseason, had a bunch of basketball content on the site today. Hopefully we'll make at least one of the baseball scrimmages this week. So we'll have at least one practice or scrimmage notes and stats over there.
Jackson Walker Hive, let's go. How high can Hunter High climb here this off season? Stone Lawless. Yeah, the man there's no laws that apply to him at the plate. I hope you're writing these down. Keep going.
Yeah, what Chase said. And then a ton of Tennessee football content, as you'd expect, the third Saturday in October. Feature story later this week on one Mr. Will Brooks I'll have coming out. So stay tuned for that. Should be Thursday morning.
Vestavia Hills legend. Jack Foster, what about you over at Omaha Productions and Rocky Top Insider this week?
Yeah. For Always College Football, got the Sunday reaction already up, of course, this week. Monday, 10 takeaways. It's our best show of the week, in my opinion. Greg really does a great job prepping for that and really talking about the week. And many times in SV Pod, 2 shows a week now. So
which way do you think Greg's going? He's calling the game. Is he going to give you some insight here? Like, how does this work? Do you have to not do the pod or not communicate this week?
What, with me and him?
Yeah.
No,
Conflict of interest, Jack.
Yeah, I hope he asked me to come on Mac and Cube because I've done it back-to-back years ahead of Tennessee, Alabama. It would be fun.
Okay.
We'll see, though.
You got to wonder about how Greg will hold up in the booth when they honor the Tennessee baseball team. Hopefully there's a trash can
I was waiting
near him
for that.
if he needs to throw up. Hopefully, he's so appalled by Tennessee baseball and their antics.
Ha-ha.
Ryan, turn up the heat on Jack here. Cold-blooded.
I'm not turning up on Jack. Jack's not. Jack doesn't. Greg McElroy's opinions on Tennessee baseball aren't Jack's. Those aren't the same. Whatever the people put in their bios.
Retweets are not endorsements.
Retweets are not endorsements. That's
There
it.
you go. But yeah, so
Jack
one
is
thing
so uncomfortable. Ryan, you just put him into a blender here. This is unbelievable content. I feel bad for our country, but this is tremendous content.
One thing I specifically want to emphasize is our Always College Football recaps on Sunday mornings are great for the college football week, but Scott Van Pelt, Stanford Steve, we're doing late night Saturdays every week. Steve, most of the time, joining from on the road. It is a ton of fun. It's a longer episode, probably 60, 70 minutes, but man, it's off the cuff, unfiltered. It's awesome. SVP and Stanford Steve, when you wake up on Sunday morning, it'll already be up, and it's a lot of fun. I've been running the ship there, so check out SV Pod.
There you go. Jack Foster, Ryan Schumpert, always a pleasure, and I'll talk to y'all next week.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.